Hi everyone, it's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and today we're going to continue to take a look at the 1956 top set, which is my favorite set, and we're going to do a deep dive on Chuck Stobbs, who was a pitcher for the Washington Nationals. And in the picture you can see here, it looks like Chuck is diving back to first base, his hand on the bag, and he's looking back probably towards the umpire. You can see the first baseman, possibly a Yankee player, with the glove under him and applying the tag. And Chuck was a pitcher, as I said, for the Washington Senators. He was from Norfolk, Virginia, born July 2nd of 1929. So let's take a quick look at Chuck Stobbs' career. His dad was a professional football player in the 20s for the Detroit Tigers. That was the professional team in Detroit. He lasted for 1 year, and he was done. And then Chuck's mother played high school and college basketball in the 1920s, the early days of college basketball. Now, Chuck was the middle of three boys, and he was a two-time All-State player in basketball, football, and baseball in Virginia his junior year and his senior year. And actually in 1947, the Washington Post said that Chuck was probably one of the greatest athletes to be developed in the Virginia high schools in recent years. And he was offered a scholarship to Duke to play basketball, but he chose to go to baseball when the Red Sox came and offered him a bonus to sign. And seeing how he was what they call a bonus baby, he had to stay on the major league roster for 2 full years, which really stunted the growth of so many people. At that time, they were unable to go to the minor leagues to hone their abilities. Instead, they had to stay on the big league roster, which usually just extremely stunted so many people's growth. I guess they say he signed a deal for $50,000, and then he was on the Red Sox team. He pitched his opener. He pitched one. Excuse me here. The Red Sox kept Stobbs on the big league club in 48 and 49, and after he had signed, and he had his first professional start, which did not go very well, on September 23rd against a doubleheader against Philadelphia. He lasted only 1 2/3 innings, being driven from the game by 4 hits, 2 walks, and a wild pitch. He was charged with 3 runs and a loss, and he ended the 1947 season with an 0-1 major league record in just 9 innings of work. In 1948, he only threw 7 innings, recorded no decisions. Though he was eligible for the World Series, the Red Sox hopes ended with a 1-game playoff defeat at the hands of the Cleveland Indians. Then in 1949, he finally hit his stride, despite the bonus rule costing him a year of seasoning that he had in 1948. Stobbs started 19 games in 1949 and appeared in 7 games in relief. He won 11 and lost 6, had a 4.03 ERA. But for the 3rd year in a row, he walked more than he struck out, which is quite interesting. In 1950, he walked more than he struck out again, but he won 12 games while losing 7. He had 21 starts and 11 relief appearances. In 1951, it looked like Stobbs was going to be heading to the Army during the Korean War, but he was rejected twice due to asthma. And he finished that season with a 10-9 record, but then was dealt in November to the Chicago White Sox. He spent the 52 season with the White Sox and had an excellent ERA of 3.13, but he suffered in double digits defeats, going 7 and 12. After that season, the Chicago White Sox traded him to the Washington Senators. Now, Chuck Stobbs may be remembered, his biggest headline actually in the Washington Senators was that he gave up the mammoth home run to Mickey Mantle that was hit in Washington's Griffith Stadium on April 17th, estimated to be at 565 feet, which would have been one of the longest blasts ever in Major League Baseball. And Stobbs said, "At least I got to pitch later on in Yankee Stadium," when he was interviewed about that. And they say that Stobbs threw another historic pitch, not only the longest home run ever hit by Mickey Mantle, but the most wild pitch, as he threw a pitch in Detroit on May 20th that went into the 17th row at Tiger Stadium. He was a 20-game loser in 1957. He was quite discouraged. But Stobbs always said he started the season off poorly because of asthma. He dropped his first 3 decisions in 1958. He was 2-6 by the time June rolled around, and he was sold to the St. Louis Cardinals during the All-Star break for $20,000. In 1959, The Cardinals placed him on waivers. In January, no one bit, and he was given his release. He was signed again with Washington as a free agent and came back wearing eyeglasses, as an eye examination had showed that he had a 35% deficiency in one of his eyes. And they said that Stobbs had a much better eyesight and much better perception on the target area. As of 1959, he threw 90 and two-thirds innings, and he struck out more than twice as many as he walked, posting his best ERA of his major league career at 2.98. He won only one game all year on May 5th, and he lost 8. Only 7 of his 41 appearances were starts, and he was credited with 7 saves. From 1957 through 59, Chuck Stobbs would win 12 games and lose 17. And the Washington Senators were a very poor franchise. They just did not do very well. He was traded then to the Twins. He started 3 games, and he relieved 21. And then that was it. His last appearance came on August 12th against the Detroit Tigers, going 7 full innings. Stobbs gave up 2 singles, threw a wild pitch, walked 2 batters, forcing in a run. That was the end of his career. He was given his release in October. Looking back on his 15 career, he says there were many good moments, but there were naturally many regrets as well. And his most difficult time was during the bonus rule. He was 18 years old and he didn't know anything. He was in the major leagues, and he said, I was frustrated. I wore the bench out. He just sat around. He had no inaction. But after appearing in 459 major league games, he had over 100 victories to his credit. It's safe to say that he actually validated what Boston saw originally in his talent when they signed him. Chuck Stobbs was diagnosed with throat cancer and ended up dying in 2008. His major league record was 107 wins with 130 losses. He had 897 strikeouts. He started 238 games and ended up with 19 saves, and he threw almost 2,000 innings. His baseball career lasted from 1947 to 1961 with the Boston Red Sox, the Chicago White Sox, the Senators, the St. Louis Cardinals, and finally, the Minnesota Twins. Chuck Stobbs appeared on baseball cards from 1952 with Topps to 1961 with Topps. He did not appear on any Bowman cards. And so you can see that Chuck Stobbs here was a person that had a lot of talent, a 2-time All-State player in Virginia for basketball, football, and baseball. And I think it's likely that that bonus baby rule, which was just terrible at that time, really cost him maybe a better baseball career, because he, instead of being able to go and develop as a young 18, 19, 20-year-old, he was sitting on a major league roster, and he just never really did have a chance to become what he could have been. But Chuck Stobbs is most known really for giving up that mammoth home run to Mickey Mantle, and the longest home run. I remember that was in the Guinness Book of World Records in the 70s when I was a kid, about Mickey's long blast at Griffith Stadium in Washington. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at Chuck Stobbs, and again, here's a guy that his major league career was not all that good, but you know what? He threw 2,000 innings in Major League Baseball, starting 238 games, playing from 47 to 61 with 107 wins. And Chuck Stobbs, he may not have been a great baseball player, but you know what? He was a major league player, and that's more than I can say for myself, and most of us can say for ourselves. And again, it's just enjoyable to take a look at these players that are on cardboard. And again, we all like the star players. We like to collect the big cards, but it's people like Chuck Stobbs, the common players, the guys that just get relegated to a common position in our collection, that are really the backbone of the game that we all love. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at Chuck Stobbs. Everyone, keep collecting and have a great night. Until next time, take care of yourself.